It's Raider Nation Central. Yeah, it's Raider Nation Central. Yeah. Talking Spurs, that's what we do. Silver and black, running through the crew from the first kickoff to the final whistle. Commitment to
Raider Nation. We might have another name to keep our eyes on, and this one could completely change the look of the Raiders' defensive line. Vita Vea has officially requested a trade from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and almost immediately, you already know what that started happening. Raiders, Vita Vea, Maxx Crosby, put those names together, and Raider Nation starts getting excited. Before we start photoshopping Vita Vea into the silver and black, there's bigger questions we need to answer. Would trading for Vita Vea actually make sense for what John Spytek is building in Las Vegas? Because the player makes sense. The price? Now that's where the conversation gets interesting. Let's get into it. First, let's understand what's happening in Tampa. Vea isn't asking out because he suddenly can't play. This comes down to business. The two-time Pro Bowler is entering his final year of the 4-year, $71 million contract he signed with Tampa Bay. He held in during mandatory minicamps while trying to work out an extension. And those negotiations haven't produced a new deal. Now his camp has requested a trade. Tampa doesn't have to trade him. That's important. This could still end with Vea getting paid and remaining a Buccaneer. But once a player of his caliber becomes potentially available, John Spytek at least has to make the phone call. We're talking about a 6'4", nearly 350-pound defensive tackle who can absolutely wreck the middle of the offensive line. And don't look at his size and think he's only there to just eat up blockers. Vea has 35 career tackles. He's played 112 NFL games and started 107 of them. He's a two-time Pro Bowler. He's a Super Bowl champion. And last season, at age 30, he still started all 17 games and recorded 34 tackles and 4.5 sacks. That's not some veteran you're bringing in hoping he can figure and have something out. Vita Vea can still play. And Raider Nation, this is where I start getting interested. Imagine you're an offense coordinator trying to prepare for the Raiders' defensive front. You already got Maxx Crosby coming off the edge. You also got Quentin Pay. You also got Malcolm Kuntz. Now you're putting in Vita Vea right in the middle of that? Who are you doubling? Because if you start dedicating extra bodies to Maxx Crosby, you got 347 pounds coming through the middle. If you start collapsing protection towards Vea, now you're creating opportunities for the outside. But the biggest difference might come against the run. Vea can occupy blockers and keep the linebackers clean. Think about that. What could that mean for Quay Walker and the Kobe Dean? That's why I don't look at this as a simple adding another defensive lineman. Vea could potentially make everybody around him better. And there's another reason Las Vegas keeps coming up in the conversation. Spytek knows Vita Vea. Spytek spent years in Tampa Bay's front office while Vea became one of their foundations of that defense. Tom Brady obviously knows him too. They won a Super Bowl together in Tampa. So the Raiders wouldn't be evaluating a stranger. There are people inside the organization who knows exactly what type of player and person they be potentially bringing into the building. That's worth paying attention to. But there's another side to this. Because Raider Nation, I don't want us falling in love with the name and forgetting what John Spytek's trying to build. Vita Vea is 31 years old. He's entering the final year of his contract. And the entire reason we're having this conversation is because he wants another contract. So you're potentially paying twice. You're giving Tampa Bay draft capital to acquire him, and then you're giving Vea a new contract to keep him. That's why I'm going to start asking questions. If Tampa Bay wants a premium draft picks, now we got to talk. Because the Raiders team is trying to build around Fernando Mendoza and the young core. Those draft picks matter. If you're giving away major assets and paying significant extensions to a defensive tackle who's about to turn 32, that's not an automatic yes for me. And there's another factor. Big defensive tackles take punishment. Vea has been remarkably productive, but father time eventually comes for everybody. The Raiders will have to decide whether they're paying for the next few years of Vita Vea or paying based on what Vita Vea has already accomplished. Those are two very different things. If the price is right, now we're talking. But if Tampa Bay wants a massive haul because he's a two-time Pro Bowler, John Spytek has to be disciplined. Here's the part that really interests me. If the Raiders actually make this move, that tells me something about the organization views the 2026 season. That's not only purely a rebuilding move. That's saying we believe we can compete sooner than people think. You're putting another proven veteran next to Maxx Crosby. You're strengthening your run defense. You're making life easier for your linebackers. And you're potentially building one of the most physical fronts in football while your young quarterback develops. That could take the pressure off Clint Kubiak's offense too. If your defense can keep games close, Mendoza doesn't eventually have to walk into the field believing he needs to score 30 points every Sunday. That's the big picture. So Raider Nation, Vita Vea in the silver and black, the football fit, I understand it completely. Maxx Crosby and Vita Vea on the same defensive front will give offensive lines serious problems. You'll be adding experience, power, championship pedigree, and one of the league's most established interior defenders. But the Raiders also have to consider his age, the new contract he's looking for, and most importantly, what Tampa Bay wants in return. That's why I'm asking you simply, do you want Vita Vea? Of course, we love to add a player like that. I'm asking, what are you willing to give up for him? Would you give Tampa Bay a second-round pick? Would you go as high as a second and a fifth? Or are you keeping those picks and continue to build through the draft? Put your trade offer in the comments. I want to see what Raider Nation thinks Vita Vea is actually worth. And if you're new here, hit that like button, subscribe to Raider Nation Central, and stay locked in because training camp is here and we got plenty more silver and black to talk about. Just win, baby.